Hi everyone. Hi. So we're going to be talking about the art projects between All About Me on May 12th until May 25th, which letter V is for vegetables. So my apologies for having the tutorials out of order, but I accidentally deleted the part 2 yesterday. So gonna do it again. So the All About Me worksheet, it's super cute. They can draw a picture of their family. You can ask them what their favorites are, and you can either write them down, or they can write part of it, or if they're really interested in writing, they can write. It's just I like the All About Me. It's just a little self-awareness worksheet, and their interests and everything like that change so fast. Okay, so that's that. Make a butterfly coffee filter. So this one is the little bag with the coffee filter, tongue depressor, pipe cleaner, and googly eyes. I'm gonna show you the finished product. Super cute, right? So back here, you're gonna need to put a piece of you're gonna need to put a little bit of hot glue right there at the bottom. And then you'll fold that pipe cleaner and then put the coffee filter. Once it's decorated, I would recommend bingo markers would be great for this. And if you could use watercolor paint if you wanted to, you would just really need to wait until it dries because it'll rip easily. So then you just tuck the coffee filter in there and then fold it over and then do that to twist them to get the little antennas right there. And then, this is an old one. It's an old project. We've had it at Ready, Set, Grow for a really long time. And that's your butterfly. The next one is uppercase bingo. So in preschool, we learn lowercase letters first. Now we are definitely more than ready to be learning all of our uppercase letters. If your child is feeling really confident in their letter recognition and it's not a challenge to them, I would definitely start with the uppercase bingo first because it'll be just the right amount of challenge for them. And then you can talk about, because some letters, they look the same, whether they're lowercase or uppercase, and some letters look very different. So you can talk about that too and maybe try to help them remember which letters look very different than the ones that look the same. So it'll just help them remember what that letter is, okay? So there's that. If your child is still working on letter recognition, I would recommend starting with the lowercase letters because they will be able to recognize those quicker. If you want to reference zoophonics in the letter awareness, you could say, okay, you can use a bean or a penny or a goldfish, really anything to put down on the letters that are called for bingo. But you could say, Q, Queenie, Quail goes qua, qua, qua. Okay, and that will help them because that is so ingrained in them. And the zoophonics is uploaded to YouTube. I did that, I think, at the beginning of the quarantine, if you wanted to remember which each one of those were. Okay? That's that. Mixing colors. So this is going to be something I'm doing with them, or pretending to do with them. I'm going to upload a video. So it's really self-explanatory. I liked writing it. I wanted to write it that way just because this is something familiar they're going to see in kindergarten. So something plus something equals something else. So it's just written like an equation. So they're going to mix blue and red. They're going to mix blue and yellow and red. And then down here, they're going to mix some secondary colors with primary colors. And then what you'll do is you'll provide them with the 3 primary colors, and then they'll mix them. And once they have to mix yellow and blue to get green, which is up here. Then they can take that green and then take it and use it to mix with the blue that's down here. And what they'll do is once they've mixed it, you want to maybe ask them, so what do you think blue and red are going to make when you mix together? And then they can see if their hypothesis was correct once they start mixing together and they start seeing the color change. So then they can just draw like a dot or splish, splash, a dot. I don't know why that seems to be my favorite word and it's not even a word. But just make a mark of each color that they get. Okay, so that is that one. Letter U for umbrella. So we did talk about the letters. They're going to recognize the shape. They're going to use their cutting muscles to cut that out. And then they're going to cut out the umbrellas so that they can glue them along the U. So another activity that you could do with this, or not activity, but you could question them with the U and the V is how many umbrellas do you think it will take to cover your whole lowercase u? And then have them guess. And once they're done gluing all their umbrellas, you can say, now let's count and see if your hypothesis was correct. And you get some science in there too. So this paper is super thin. It's printer paper and it's really easy to cut. So they should feel like, oh yeah, I got this. Because I know that's extra cutting for them for the letters. But that was another reason why I wanted to do it, is because I really want to make sure their cutting muscles are where they need to be by the end of school. And paper plate flour is next. So paper plate flour has its own bag because of these tissue squares. I didn't want them getting everywhere. And there's a paper plate, and you have, this is the flower center they're going to be cutting out, and this is the leaf they're going to be cutting out, and it's folded in half, so when they cut it, they'll get 2 leaves. There's also a tongue depressor, and of course the tissue paper. So this is, speaking of exercising cutting muscles, this is really going to give their hands a workout because cutting paper plates is not the easiest thing. So it should be pretty basic as far as just one cut right here and then one cut right here, and then do that all along the plate. And then once you're done, it'll look like a sun/flower. And then they can use the tissue paper to decorate the petals of their flower, which could be turned into a counting. So how many pieces of tissue paper. Or they could do a pattern, like I want to do 2 pieces of blue and 1 piece of pink. And then they can also count the petals. If they want to use paint instead of glue and tissue squares, I would recommend making a secondary color with 2 primary colors and do the whole guessing of what color it's going to be and all that. And then once they're done doing that, they're just going to glue the stick onto their flower and then glue the leaves on the sides and cut and glue, of course, the center of their flower. Cannot wait to see these art projects when they do them. Okay, lowercase bingo. So everything I just said about uppercase bingo, apply it to lowercase bingo if you want to reference Zoophonics. And then maybe I was also thinking if you could maybe have like a can of Play-Doh or just something simple to have it be a prize so they get really excited about playing. Love bug. Love bug is labeled. And I put the grass down there for them. I wanted them to look at this and get a visual of what they were drawing, which is an outside spring scene. So you'll encourage them to draw flowers. The stems can come out of the ground. And then for the bugs, they're going to be making ladybugs. So you're going to need like a cut Q-tip where the top of the Q-tip is cut off, or a very, very fine paintbrush, or something like that. A toothpick would be great. They're going to take their finger and they're going to dip it in red paint, and they're going to put their love bugs, as many as they want. They can count them when they're done. And then they're going to take the Q-tip or whatever you're using, dip it in black, and put dots on it and then give the bug little antenna. It turns out super cute. So I was thinking I actually want to do a tutorial video of this one with them too. I think that would be fun. And then they can count, if they put 6 dots on each ladybug, you can count, well, there's 6 dots on this one, and there's 6 dots on this one. How many do you think they're all together? Okay. And then also talk about spring and growth and life and all the beautiful things that are happening right now. Okay. Dot to dot letters. Where are my worksheets? On my lap. Okay. So the dot to dot, it's also capital letters. Like I've said, we're going to be transitioning our focus to capital letters. So there is that. It would be helpful for them if they're struggling or if they remember their alphabet by singing it to themselves. It may help because it's going to take longer than singing the song to be able to do the dot to dot. And sometimes you get stuck if that's how you recollect the letters. If you write them down in capital and so that they can see, so, oh, I ended on C, then the next one is D. So they're recognizing the letter on the paper that you wrote and then they're finding it on this. Okay. And splish splash art. This is a brand new art project. We've never really even done anything like it before, so I'm excited to get your feedback, parents, because I want to know if the kiddos enjoy doing it, because if they did, I want to incorporate more of that before the end of the year. Okay, so for splish splash art, you have, this is cardstock. You have a flower center. You have a piece of yellow paper, and you have a piece of large white paper. This art project is many of our art projects are process-based. This is, especially the first part of it, is very process-based. Process-based art is when the learning opportunity is focused on the process of what they're doing in the art project rather than what the project is supposed to look like. And you've heard me say a million times, your art doesn't need to look like my art or anyone else's art. Processed art is learning as they're going. It's encouraging them to use their imagination, which is I'm such a big fan of, especially for this generation, because they're going to be inventing a lot of things that don't exist. So coming up with something out of nothing is actually a really useful skill for innovation in the future. This is why I just had to have a little rant on why I love processed art and why it's a part of our learning opportunities. So you're going to want to take your paper. If you might want to put an apron on your child or have them wear a bathing suit. Tempera paint does come out of everything. It'll come out of the concrete. Well, depending on the brand of tempera paint. The one that we used at preschool pretty much came out of everything, out of clothes and all of that. This is a messier art project, so you definitely want to be sort of in the headspace to remember. You don't want to do it when you clean for 8 hours because it's just going to make you feel frustrated. But it could be really fun to do with your child. It might be fun to do with them. You want to watch them when they do it because you want to make sure that there's paint not going in their eyes or not really just getting everywhere but the paper. So with the splish splash art, you're going to get primary colors. If you don't have primary colors, that's okay. You can use any colors that you have. I would use probably 2 to 3. And they're going to take their paintbrush and they're going to, I'm just going to hold this like it's a paintbrush. And they're just going to do this, just splish splash art. You can do this outside on the concrete. You could put like a plastic tablecloth over a table. So wherever you want to do it, you want to watch them. Like I said, you want to make sure that you're not worried that it's going to go in their eye or if none of the paint's landing on the paper and you don't feel like it's working, you can instruct them rather than doing this motion to do this technique. That is a painting technique, and it's a fun one. It's a really fun one. So once this is totally covered, you're gonna wanna let it dry, of course. And then once it's dry, they're actually gonna use this flower as a template to trace. That's something we've never done before. The reason why I use the cardstock is because it's really so much easier to trace with cardstock than it is a thin piece of paper. So they're gonna take a thick marker. I would say I used a highlighter because it's really thick, but also if you see pieces of it, like, oh, there's a little highlighter here, there's a little highlighter here, it's not really that big of a deal. Sometimes when you use the big, bold black ones, they might get random lines, and they might not care, but they might not be happy with it. What did I want to tell you about this? Oh, it's important to use a bold marker if you have one. If you don't, that's okay. But the thicker the marker, the more leeway they're going to have for cutting. Does that make sense? Yeah, because if it's a tiny line, the second they're off the line, they might not care, or they might get really frustrated. But the black is a little bit more forgiving. So they're gonna do that. They're gonna trace. They're gonna cut this out, and you have enough white paper, as you can see, for 2 of these. I would recommend that you do 2 of these, that they trace and cut out 2, for a couple of reasons. If they, for some reason, don't like the way the first one came out because they've never cut a flower before, and they look at it and they're feeling frustrated, then they can do it again. Okay. Also, if you do 2 and they like both of them, you could glue them together, which would be really pretty. And then once they've done that, they're going to glue the flower. I would recommend a glue stick onto the yellow paper, and they are going to put their center in the middle. And you can imagine, with different color paints that are splashed everywhere all along the flower, how pretty and artistic that's gonna look. I'm excited to see these ones too. And I love doing art with the kiddos that is creative and it's fun. It might be stress relieving if they're having a hard day, but then to turn that into something that's really visually beautiful to look at, they get so excited about it, and I love seeing their face when they make art like that. Okay, so we have rhyme time. Okay. So we're introducing some things at the end of the year, like rhyming words. We've talked about rhyming words throughout the year, but we've never done an activity based on rhyming. So you'll just explain that rhyming words are words that have the same ending sound. And they're going to go through these and they're going to say them out loud. Once they start saying them out loud, they're going to be listening for the words that have the same ending sounds. If you'd like, they could draw a triangle around a pear and then that rhyme, and then a circle around another pear, and then a rectangle around another pear, so they know which words are rhyming with which. Okay, we're almost done here with part 2. So splish splash part 2, you'll see that on the calendar. We just explained that. Part 2 is when it dries and they turn it into the flower. And then the last one is V is for vegetables, and that's really exactly the same as the umbrella, with the exception, I love how I say exactly the same with the exception. There is not just vegetables here, and that was intentional, because you want to talk about which ones are vegetables, which ones are not vegetables, what's the difference between fruits and vegetables. And then they might need help, like I'm not sure if everybody knows that's asparagus, if every child knows that that's asparagus. So you might be able to help them with that, and then talk about the difference between fruits and vegetables, because they're only going to be selecting the vegetables to put on the letter V. And you can do the same thing where you ask, how many vegetables do you think it will take to cover your whole lowercase v, and then check your hypothesis if it was correct once you're finished with it. And I think that is it. All right, you guys, go get started on your art and have fun. Bye.